Famous for his behavior, this creature will rush blindly to one specific point, en masse, with just the slightest provocation. No, we're not talking about lemmings. We're talking about speech and debaters. We are a fearsome people with the constant potential to mob, usually due to postings. NCFCA, by yours truly, Timothy Birrell. One of the things most feared by competitors is script submission. You would think that handing in a copy of your speech would be easy, but it's not. There are pages and pages of rules for script submission, and no two speeches have the same set of rules. So quotes here, bold this, italicize that. If you wish to quote someone in your speech, not only do you have to put down your source once, but 3 times, in 3 different places, in 3 different formats. They say it's for our own good. Like when parents say, take out the trash belt's character. Right. This is an evil that should not be let loose upon the land. On the opposite end of the spectrum of good and evil are community judges. Community judges are great. I mean, here's someone who has taken time out of their day to judge some teenagers they've never met in a tournament that has absolutely no bearing on their life. And what do they get out of it? Not much. But have you ever thought about a tournament from their point of view? It started out when the soon-to-be competitor, who was a child of one of my coworkers, came to me and said, would you like to judge at a tournament I'm competing at? He then proceeded to give me the rundown. 10 speeches, 2 debates, 2 hours per round, yada yada, blah blah blah. And it starts tomorrow. He then paused and looked at me to see if my excitement level was through the roof, like his so obviously was. When I started to look at him funny, he dropped the big one. Free food. So the next morning, here I was at some random church wondering if I should follow the sign that says, community judges here, or come at 9:30 on Sunday to worship with us. Inside, it was a fairly average room. There were tables with people and food. At judges sign-in, they told me that in just 30 minutes, I would be going to judges orientation to learn how to judge a debate. So with time to kill, I decided to wander the halls. When I first saw it, I almost had a heart attack. And then I wondered, did the tournament officials know what's going on here? There is no way anything good can come from this. Thousands upon thousands of teenagers dressed in suits lining the walls as far as the eye could see. Most of them sat with their backs against the walls, feet outstretched, talking to each other. Some of them were facing the walls, talking to themselves. I quickly hurried back to judges' hospitality. They say we're the hope of our generation. They say. I mean, I know we're obviously smarter and more intelligent than everyone else in our generation, right? But do you know what kind of people we are? Sure, sometimes we'll discuss the economy. Other times we'll talk about politics. But most of the time, we're planning something devious. Like a new speech event for NCFCA. True story. At Nationals last year, a few friends and I, we came up with a new speech. Impromptu villainy. It's like impromptu, except you need to use all 3 topics you draw. And you're in some way being a villain. Orphans in Asia, Statue of Liberty, dynamite. Let's see. We could put all the orphans into the statue and then threaten to blow it up. Or we could blow up the statue and attack the army of orphans from the West Coast. Just imagine, in 20 years, one of us is president at a morning briefing. All right, Mr. President, only 3 important things happened last night. First, the Chinese government decided to euthanize all orphans. Some Mexican drug cartels blew a hole in the border wall with an estimated 10 tons of TNT. And finally, the state of New York is requesting federal funds to renovate the Statue of Liberty. Excuse me, Mr. President? Oh, we'll just put him in the statue and blow it up. It'll be fine. We're not the only weird ones. Right? I won't take debate, for example. Lincoln-Douglas debate. The sport of nerds. LD isn't famous for many reasons, namely being abstract, hard to understand. But one cannot ignore the fact that it is only half as long as a team policy debate round. This appeals to all. Debaters, because we don't have to debate as long. Judges, because we don't have to judge as long. But this is what a normal LD round looks like. During World War II, Adolf Hitler conquered most of Europe and killed over 11 million Jews. It is for this reason that I stand resolved that abstract values are better than concrete ones. Before we get started, let me provide a couple definitions. Abstract, communicating in such a way that it is hard to understand. Concrete, the heart that your sidewalk is made out of. For the purpose of this round, I'd like to present the value of justice with a criterion of human rights. Contention 1. Human rights should not be violated. And so on. After the end of the speech, the negative will get up for cross-examination. Now you must understand that we debaters will not ask each other anything until we make sure that we are in fact doing good. Alright, how are you doing today? Well, according to the theory of epistemological skepticism, which says we cannot be sure of anything, well, we cannot be sure, can we? Okay. I just got a couple of questions for you. First off, what was your value? My value is justice, because I believe it is the most important thing. For example, imagine if, alright, thank you, moving on. Do you believe that abstract values are better than concrete ones? Beyond a shadow of a doubt, unless, of course, I'm the negative debater. Alright, thank you. After the end of cross-examination and prep time, the negative will get up for his turn to pontificate. An important person once said, never turn your back on your enemy. It's for this reason that I am standing resolved. The concrete values are better than abstract ones. I disagree with two of my opponent's definitions. Let me provide counter definitions. Abstract, communicating in such a way that it is hard to understand. Concrete, the heart stuff your sidewalk is made of. Now that we have that clear, let me present my value. For this debate round, I will be using the value of concreteness with the criterion of a cement mixer. And when you walk out of LD, you wonder why you have a headache. This makes us ask, to debate or not to debate? That is the question. Whether it's as noble in the mind to agree with the arguments and evidence of the opponent, or to rebut against a sea of logic. Hold on, wait a minute, stop right there. Why on earth would we ever want to do that? I mean, we have 10 speeches to choose from. Tell me, why would we ever want to do debate? There's apologetics. 66 books, 104 topics, and 1 box. That's how you spread the good news to all creation. If you don't have the time, there's impromptu. Because there's nothing like saying something before you make it up. If you like to think it up before you say it, try extend. 30 minutes at prep time is probably the longest consecutive amount of sleep you will get the entire tournament. But who needs sleep when you have illustrated oratory? Big, gigantic boards so you can see exactly what you're doing. It's like a movie at half a frame per minute. For the charismatic among you, try persuasive. Who knows? By the end of the year, you might have even persuaded yourself. If talking about dead people is your thing, try biographical narrative. Sometimes referred to as biological narrative, but it's all the same thing, right? Future comedians should check out humorous interpretation. The rules state, and I quote, humor and satire is permitted, which I figure is a pretty good thing for humorous interpretation. If that's not enough, you can always double the order and get a duo interpretation. Because sometimes one crazy person dancing around, it just really isn't enough. Next on the list comes original interpretation, where you can make fun of everything at your own risk. Now between you and me, I have no idea what kind of crazy person would ever want to do that speech event. And finally, to round it all off at 10, we have open interpretation, where the literature is open to interpretation. Judges, parents, my fellow competitors, I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when we come to tournaments unprepared, when script submission finally drives us insane, when we break in not a single event. But that is not this day. An hour of fifth and belows and losing bouts, when the resolve of speakers comes crashing down. But it is not this day. This day we compete. By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand, speech, and debaters.